I thought transitioning from college to full time would be really easy, but I was wrong. Even though I was waking up at 5:30 in the morning every day before 8 a.m. classes, staying disciplined, doing my homework, going to bed early, and being what I thought was very responsible with my time, transitioning to a full time job out of college was actually really hard. That's because this phase of life is just completely different and no one ever really prepares you for it. I'm Cade. I'm a full time engineer, and I just graduated back in May a couple of months ago. And I just kind of wanted to share what my transition from 4 years doing engineering school to now being a full time engineer, what that transition has been like, what I expected, what it was actually like, and kind of what I've learned from it, and how I'm going to move on into my second half of my first year of working and onto all of my years throughout my career. So I genuinely thought that I was ahead of the game. Like I said, I was going to the gym, waking up early, being very responsible with my time. So I thought this kind of routine I had already set up in college was going to be very easy to like copy paste in full time life because I was like, oh well, I'll get to work at 8 a.m. I'll still do the same thing. I'll wake up, go to the gym, go to work, no problem. But in reality, I really estimated how much flexibility I had in college and how much of that I was really using. And it really hit me like a truck whenever I started my full time role. A lot of that is, for example, in college, you can skip a class or two and it's not really going to hurt you that much, but you can't skip work in the same way. Of course, you can call in sick, but you only have so many days that you can do that or use vacation days, which are very valuable in your first year of work. Another thing was I said I love to schedule 8 a.m. classes, but honestly, even if you wanted to have 8 a.m. classes every day, Monday through Friday, that's probably not possible. At most, you'll probably only have it 3 days a week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, for example, you don't have to wake up as early. And so you kind of have that flex period to be able to sleep in, and you're not, I wasn't staying diligent to the schedule. I didn't have as rigid of a schedule as I thought I did, saying that I woke up 5 a.m. every single day, because most of the time that wasn't the case, and I wasn't doing that 5 days 5 days in a row every single week, which now I have to do that I'm full time and there's no flexibility in my schedule. I can't tell you how much I miss the days of being able to just go to the gym at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. And I definitely, my senior year, especially in college, I definitely recognize that and I really tried to soak it in. And I knew whenever I was at the gym at 10 a.m., I'd really look around and be like, wow, in a few months, I'm not going to be able to do that. And that is one thing I definitely got right because that is the case. It's either I go at 5:30 in the morning or I go at late in the evening because I don't want to go at the 5:30 p.m. crowd. But that is how it goes. Overall, working full time is just constant pressure with no breaks, and you really need to evaluate this and know that going in, and really be honest with yourself and know that you have a lot of flexibility and a lot of breaks within college that you're not really going to get whenever you start a full time role. So now I want to go into my routine and kind of what shocked me about going from college to full time. Like I said, Monday through Fridays are pretty much the same every single day, and there's going to be like no off days unless you take a sick day or take paid time off, which who wants to do that, right? So my days normally look like I wake up around 5:15, I read my Bible while I'm drinking my pre-workout, go to the gym, come home, get ready for the day, go to work, go to work until about 5:30, come back home and eat some dinner with my wife, kind of hang out, watch a few TV shows, then we kind of go our separate ways, and I do what I want to do for the night. We'll do some chores, things like that, and then I try to go to bed by 9 p.m. every night. And I'm very much a morning person, so this really kind of bothers me because I feel like I'm just wasting my best hours either going to the gym, which I don't feel like is a waste, but once I get back from the gym, then I'm just getting ready for work and going to work and putting my best hours in there as opposed to it could be spent here doing something for myself or at the house. And when I come home, generally my energy is pretty low, and I'm just not an evening person to begin with. Pretty much after six p.m., I'm just dead and just want to hang out and relax. So it's pretty challenging for me to kind of have that kind of rigidity in my life. Whereas in college, it would just be like, okay, I'm gonna wake up this morning, I'm gonna crank out this homework or this paper or this assignment that I need to do, and I'd be done by 12, and then the rest of the day I could just hang out with my friends and go do some side quests because what college kid doesn't love a few side quests, right? So overall, the biggest thing is just a loss of freedom. Like I said, I miss being able to have the option to go to the gym at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. in the middle of a Tuesday, which is amazing that I could do in college like every single day. I miss staying up late just because I wanted to, or because my roommates were doing it, or we had a new friend in town, or because a new TV show was out that we really wanted to watch. And now I know if I did that, it would massively mess me up because I wouldn't wake up in time to go to the gym in the morning. I wouldn't feel the best at work, and it would just be a cascading effect. And you just have to be really disciplined and know your trade offs and be built into your routine. And obviously, you'll notice that everything is structured around your work and your responsibilities. Uh, like especially if you have a family or pets that you need to take care of, obviously they come first. And anytime that you don't have dedicated to work, it goes to them pretty much immediately. And overall, like your time just doesn't feel like it's yours anymore. And that's something you really need to focus on whenever you move from college to full time, and to be very diligent and still making it your own. Another thing that's a huge change for me is the money aspect of it. I thought that I would just have an exuberant amount of money. I would never have any problems. I would never even have to think or worry about money. I would just automatically save because I'm an engineer that makes boatloads of money. Obviously, that is not the case. Of course, I do make more money now than I ever did as a college student. No surprise there. But at the end of the day, I have a lot more taxes and bills and kind of withholdings than I expected I would. I thought I would just, be putting so much money into the stock market and having a brokerage account after maxing out all of my retirement accounts and all my tax advantage accounts immediately. But that's not the case. And it's actually even harder to manage money now than whenever I was in college because I have more of it, I have more expenses, and kind of every dollar counts. So, it's like this saying, more money, more problems, basically. And so because of this, budgeting has become a lot more important in my life, and it's something that I really enjoy to do and focus on, and knowing where every single dollar goes. So I do appreciate that aspect of it, and actually having money to manage, that is a fun challenge to me, and I'm really grateful for that and what God's blessed me with. So for me, the biggest thing that has changed, obviously going from college to full time, is being married. And so this is also another unique little caveat to throw into it. So it's not just going to work, going to the gym, taking care of the dog. It's also just making sure my wife's needs are physically and emotionally met, and that should take top priority. And you can't really be as selfish as you were in college now that I'm a husband. And that's a lot different than most people my age, but it's definitely the part that I enjoy the most and the one that I want to focus on the most. Even if sometimes I slack a little bit, stay at work too long, wake up too early, things like that. But it's another thing that's just one of the more things that you have to balance while you're married or while you're working full time. So what helps me is kind of figuring out what like a top 10% day looks like, what my best day looks like. And so that's when I wake up at 5:15, drink my pre-workout, read my Bible, start the day with some scripture, go to the gym, go to work, work really hard. I prefer to have do some like actual work in the mornings from like 8 to 12, go to lunch with all my coworkers, and then come back and have a bunch of meetings in the afternoon, just kind of chill and kind of like brainstorm, if that makes sense, because that's just kind of how I work. And then be home around 5:30, 5:45, eat dinner with my wife, catch up with each other on the day. Probably watch like short little TV, like I don't know, probably like 30 minutes max. Because if it's anything less than that, like the evening, anything more than that, like the evening is basically gone. And then kind of do something together, whether it's like doing the dishes or walking the dog or things like that. And then kind of go in our separate ways. And I'll usually go journal, read a book before bed, or kind of work on the budget or work on something else. And I noticed just like having the structure of my day and kind of like working on a little bit of everything is what brings me the most joy. You know, making sure I'm doing my part in everything, whether it's household chores, responsibilities, finances, work, my wife, all those things are attended to and taken care of. That's the biggest thing instead of like kind of not missing a day and then just completely falling off and not doing what's expected of me. So this phase of life is a lot harder than I expected. I did expect it to be a little bit easier, but at the end of the day, I'm very grateful for it. And it's a lot more meaningful than I expected, especially being married at such a young age. And I've really enjoyed these past 8 months working full time as an engineer. It's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. And to be able to share that with my wife and in a new city with her, it's been an amazing experience. So obviously, I'm still figuring out, but this is just what it looks like right now. And I just kind of wanted to share this process and a little bit with you so that way you would know what you're getting yourself into going from college to a full time job. Because even though you might be an engineer or some super smart student in college, full time will still kind of knock you on your butt, and you just have to keep going, get back up, and not quit. And just know what you're getting yourself into. It's a completely different beast. So, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one.